everyone. The story I have today is the first in 3 similar stories from different places around the world. And this story was written in Germany by 2 brothers. Their names are Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. And they wrote their stories in a place called Germany. They wrote a bunch of other tales, kind of like this one, ones that you may know already about. Because this is a story that lots of kids know about, the version that happens today might be different from a version that you know or one that might be your favorite. So let me tell you the story of the Little Red Riding Hood. Once there was a sweet little girl who was loved by all who knew her, but most of all by her grandmother, who could not do enough for her. Once the grandmother sent the girl a cloak with a red velvet hood. The little girl was so pleased with the cloak that she cherished it and wore it every day. So she came to be known as the Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Little Red Riding Hood, your grandmother is feeling sick. I would like you to go visit her. Take her some of the cakes we baked yesterday. They will do her good. Go quickly before it gets too warm, but remember to stay on the path and do not stop along the way." "I will do just as you say, Mother," promised Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood started on her way. Her grandmother lived in a house in the woods, a half-hour's walk from the village. Little Red Riding Hood had only just entered the woods when she came upon a wolf. The wolf longed to eat Little Red Riding Hood for lunch. But Little Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked animal he was, so she was not afraid of him. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Good morning, Wolf," she answered kindly. "And where are you going so early?" he asked. To my granny's house." "And what's that in your basket?" "Some cakes we baked yesterday. Grandmother is sick, and the cakes will make her feel better." "And where does your grandmother live?" "In the woods, a short distance from here, in a cottage under 3 big oak trees," said Little Red Riding Hood. Said the wolf as he thought to himself. "What a tasty morsel this little girl could be. But she's not big enough for a meal. I must find a way to eat her and her grandmother too." The wolf walked along beside Little Red Riding Hood for a while. Then he said, "Why, look at the pretty flowers. Why don't you just stop and rest to pick up some of them? You're hurrying along as if you were late for school, yet the birds are singing and everything is so pleasant here in the woods." Little Red Riding Hood looked up and saw the sunlight dancing in the leaves of the trees. She saw the lovely flowers around her, and she thought, "I am sure Grandmother would be pleased if I took a bunch of fresh flowers." Forgetting what she promised her mother, she left the path and went out her way to the woods to pick some flowers. Every time she picked one, she saw others even prettier farther on, and so she strayed deeper and deeper into the woods. As for the wolf, he hurried straight to Grandmother's cottage and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" said a little voice. "It is I, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, trying to sound like the little girl. "Oh, lift the latch and let yourself in, dear," said the old woman. "I'm too weak to get out of bed." The woman lifted the latch and swung open the door. Before Grandmother could realize what was happening, the wolf gobbled her up in one mouthful. Then the sly wolf dressed himself in her nightgown and nightcap. With a wicked grin, he got into bed and pulled up the covers. It was quite the disguise. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood had picked all the flowers she could carry and found her way back to the path. She walked on quickly until she came to Grandmother's house. She was surprised to find the door open. As she stepped inside, she felt very strange. "Oh dear," she said to herself. "This morning I was so glad to be going to see my grandmother. Why do I feel so frightened now?" She took a deep breath and called out, "Good morning, Grandmother." But there was no answer. She went up to bed. There she saw her grandmother, or so she thought. The wolf had pulled the covers up under his chin and pulled the nightcap down to his eyes. Little Red Riding Hood thought her grandmother looked very strange indeed. "Oh, Granny," she said, "what big ears you have!" "The better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf. Said Little Red Riding Hood. "Granny must be sick indeed, for her voice is much deeper than it used to be." "And Granny, what big eyes you have!" "The better to see you with, my dear." "And Grandmother, what big teeth you have!" "The better to eat you," cried the wolf as he sprang out of bed and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood in one big gulp. After his meal, the wolf was feeling stuffed. He lay down on the bed and went to sleep, and began to snore very loudly. A hunter who was passing by the cottage heard the snoring. "My," he thought, "the old woman sounds terrible. I'd better look inside to check on her." The hunter walked inside and saw the wolf. He instantly noticed the wolf's big belly and realized that the wolf had eaten the old woman. He knew he had to set her free. The hunter set them free, and out jumped Little Red Riding Hood and Granny. "Oh, I'm so grateful you saved us," said Little Red Riding Hood. Granny, too, thanked the hunter for his kindness. When the wolf woke up, he was shocked to see all the people standing before him that he ran away, never to be seen again. Little Red Riding Hood sat down with her grandmother and the hunter, and together they ate the cakes Little Red Riding Hood had brought. And Little Red Riding Hood said to herself, "After this I shall always do as my mother tells me, and I shall never leave the path again, not even to pick pretty flowers." Now let's talk about the story a little bit. Before Little Red Riding Hood goes to her grandmother's house, her mother has some instructions for her. Do you remember what those instructions were? Stay on the path and don't take too long. Did Little Red Riding Hood listen? No. What did she do instead? She went to pick flowers, and she started talking to strangers, and she went deeper into the woods to find prettier flowers. Why did the wolf tell Little Red Riding Hood to go pick flowers? What was his idea behind that? Remember how before that Little Red Riding Hood said where her grandmother was? Remember the wolf said, "This girl is not enough for me to eat, but I bet if I eat her and the grandma, I'd be full." Well, they were walking towards grandma's house, and as they were getting close, Wolf realized, let me distract this little girl so that way I can run ahead to grandma's house. And that's exactly what he did. Now, I know we see pictures, lots of illustrations about what the wolf looked like disguised as grandma. But if you think about in real life, if you were to somehow see a wolf in grandma outfit in a cap and covers up to their chin, would you be fooled? I don't think I would. I think I would see right away that that is not a person, that is an animal. Could this story really happen, or is it made up? I hope you say it is made up. Absolutely. People and wolves do not speak the same language. A wolf does not decide to go into someone's house and dress up as someone else. Those types of things could not really happen. There were a couple of words in the story that I wanted to talk about with you just to make sure you understand them. The first one was sly, when the book was, or the story was explaining or describing the wolf. Sly. Do you remember that word? We've talked about it once before. If you are sly, you are being sneaky or secretive. Another word that was used in the story is grateful. As in, "Oh, I'm so grateful you saved us," said Little Red Riding Hood when she was talking to that man. Grateful. It's like thankful. She is very, very, very happy and very thankful, grateful that that person saved her. The last word I wanted to talk about is the word cherished. As in, the little girl was so pleased with the cloak that she cherished it and wore it every day. This is when she got the cloak from her grandmother. She cherished that cloak. Cherished. Let's see if there's a definition in here. Cherished means really appreciating or caring deeply about something or someone. You can cherish your family. Maybe there is something in your house like a statue or an old stuffed animal of yours that you really cherish. You love it and you take great care of it. What is a lesson that can be learned from this story? I can think of two. The first lesson I can think of is maybe listen to your parents. They have really good ideas, they've lived a great life, and they learn things from their life, and they're helping you learn things. So Little Red Riding Hood should have stayed on the path and listened to her parent. Also, the second one I can think of, don't talk to strangers, right? The wolf was asking her very personal questions like, where does your grandmother live? That's not a question you should be answering to someone you don't really know. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to a pretty familiar story with me today. I'm not going to tell you what the story is about tomorrow. I want you to see what is similar between the story today and the story tomorrow. So you would just have to find out. All right. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.